started. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are Zooming from. My name is Peaches Valdez. I am the Dean of Admission here at Hamilton. I'm so glad to have you all join us this evening. Today I have a group of really great people, great community members here to have a great conversation about our community here at Hamilton College. So what I'll do is I'll have them introduce themselves and then we'll get started shortly. But one of the things, definitely I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to spend with us. We definitely know that campus life and community is really important as you start your college search process. So I hope this experience, this conversation is going to help you give a little insight into our community and to the place that many of us call home. And so I'm going to have my colleagues start off. Let's go with, we'll go with Travis, and then we'll go Norbu and then Lydia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Travis Hill. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the Associate Dean of Students for Student Engagement, which is a lot of words, but essentially means that I work closely with students and the offices of residential life, student activities and orientation, outdoor leadership, and I have the pleasure of working with fraternities and sororities as well.
And where are you Zooming from, Travis?
I'm Zooming from my office here in beautiful Clinton, New York.
Okay. Great, perfect. How about you, Norbu?
Hi, everyone. My name is Norbu, and I'm a rising sophomore. So I just finished my first year in Hamilton, and that's been fun. And I'm from a small country in South Asia called Bhutan. It's like a very tiny country. And I haven't officially declared my major yet, but I'm planning to do a double major in economics and world politics, and maybe a minor in Chinese. And outside the classroom, I enjoy playing volleyball with my friends, swimming, and recently I got into rock climbing. And this summer, I'm staying on campus as a summer tour guide, so that's been really fun.
Great, perfect. And Lydia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia. I'm a rising senior at Hamilton. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Hingham, Massachusetts. I'm a history major here, and then a economics and Russian studies double minor. I write for The Spectator here at Hamilton. I'm also a writer for Signature Style. I'm a member of Jan Committee, and I'm working as a senior fellow in the admissions office this summer.
Great, perfect. So it's possible that some of the students viewing this evening may be interviewing with you, correct?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll see some of you guys.
Great, perfect. So, and then behind the scenes, we have my colleague, Nikki Barron, class of 2002 here at Hamilton. She's also the Associate Dean of Admission as well. And she will be helping out with the tech behind the scenes, answering questions in the Q&A, redirecting people in the chat. So definitely feel free to ask your questions and she will help manage those. But definitely, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. We actually have some questions already. I'm going to start with those, and then we'll move forward to your questions as well and try to get to as many of them as possible. So let's get started. First question, kind of a softball, everybody. So what drew you to Hamilton? So let's start with Lydia this time, since you are a senior. So you've actually are going, 4 years ago, you went through this process just like our guests this evening. So what drew you to Hamilton?
Yeah, it's crazy to think that I was going through this process 4 years ago. It does not feel that long ago at all. It's crazy how fast time flies. But many things drew me to Hamilton. In particular, the open curriculum. That was very interesting to me. I went to a small public high school. I didn't really have much agency when it came to picking courses that I wanted to take. My schedule is kind of always predetermined for me. So the open curriculum was something super unique about Hamilton that I wasn't really seeing at many other schools. And that still holds true to this day. I still love the open curriculum, and it really has allowed me to explore many of my interests and has allowed me to discover things I never thought that I would be interested in. And then I would say that the other big thing would be the sense of community at Hamilton. I was very anxious when I was applying to colleges. I was really worried about leaving home and then leaving my town and my circle of friends. But at Hamilton, the sense of community was really palpable and everyone was just so friendly. And I think that still holds so true to this day, even 4 years later. And a sense of community was really something that allowed me to envision myself at home at Hamilton. So I'd say it was a mix of those two things that really drew me to Hamilton.
Great, thanks, Lydia. Let's go to Norbu.
Cool. Just like Lydia, my first answer is the open curriculum. Just like one of the most asked questions on my doors, and I have like a list of 3 points of why I chose Hamilton. My first one, like I said, the open curriculum. I personally went to a British international school in Thailand, so most of my friends were applying to like specific courses in university. So they were applying to geoscience or neuroscience or criminology. And I was 17 then. All my friends are 17, and I was ready to make like a huge decision for the rest of my life. So I think having like the nice space and time to like explore so many like departments out there in Hamilton, that was like a major factor of why I chose Hamilton. I personally chose psychology as like an initial double major in mind, but I haven't really found that psychology was fit for me. So I still have the chance to like change my interests here. So I'm really glad I made the decision to come to Hamilton. And my second big like talking point, like my reason why I chose Hamilton is the small college experience. I personally went to a very small school, and like I really enjoyed having small classes. And like in the initial stages of my college career, I had like big. I was like looking at other universities, and they all had like big classes. They had like over 100 students in one lecture hall. That wasn't my ideal education like view. So I think having small classes here, like the access to professors, that's like a great thing I've experienced so far. And lastly, the financial aid here is great. Like even if you get to a really good university, the ability to pay for Hamilton, that's like a big concern. And I think having like a nice need blind admission process, and it was as well as like meeting 100% of the demonstrated needs, that was like a big factor of why I chose Hamilton at the end. But yeah.
Great, thank you, Norbu. And then, both Lydia and Norbu have actually talked about the open curriculum, which is actually going to be our next question. So we're going to dive into a little bit deeper in that. And Travis, please, if you can answer this question, especially from the lens of someone who's been here for quite some time, but also as a community member, what stood out to you as saying, like, I wanted to be part of this community and I've stayed in this community?
Yeah, so I'm going into my 20th year at Hamilton. And so I've been at Hamilton longer than you all have been alive. And for me, I went to a small private residential liberal arts institution as an undergraduate. I went to graduate school at a large state institution, and I really missed the environment of the small private liberal arts residential institution. I think there's something magical about being on a campus where people live, where they study, to have 4 years where you are together with folks who are motivated by similar things and experiencing that educational and interpersonal and personal growth day in and day out over the 4 years that you're in college is pretty amazing. And so I was enthusiastic to look for institutions like that. And when I came here, I was just blown away at the thoughtfulness and the intelligence of our students, which has not changed. Our student body has changed a lot in 20 years. That has not. That has been consistently true. And it really is a place where people care about one another, which is a thing that it's what keeps me here. I started as a live-in staff member with the thought that I'd be here for a few years, and 20 years later, they can't get rid of me if they try.
I mean, definitely, Travis, I appreciate that because of the fact that you've captured a lot of the feelings by our students and our faculty and staff that have stayed here. It's that sense of community. And what's great is that it's not just about the student community itself. It's about the campus. It's about the members of the faculty and staff from all different walks of life. And I think that people find a way to connect with one another. And I think, one of the great examples of that is the fact that, now throughout the summer, in order to build and maintain community, especially after some really unprecedented years, we have these Wednesday community lunches. So everyone comes together and enjoys music and food and just a great way to relax throughout the summer and to enjoy people's time. But definitely it's one of those things that, definitely drew me to Hamilton as well, that sense of community, that sense of engagement, and the fact that people have a voice here, people have a space here, and they're valued for that. So as I mentioned, Norbu and Lydia definitely talked about the open curriculum. And I think that's something that makes our institution distinct. And so, for both of you as people who are going through this process of the open curriculum, can you talk a little bit about that? What does it mean to you and how have you maximized that? Let's start with Norbu. It's definitely after you've finished your first year, you've been successful academically, can you talk about kind of your thoughts about the open curriculum? You talked a little bit about it, but can you go a little bit more detail about how did you feel supported kind of navigating because of the fact that it does offer quite a bit of freedom and flexibility?
Cool. Thank you for the question. And what it basically means for me and all other students here is we won't be forced to take classes we don't want to be in. Most other universities tend to have this distribution requirements, so they might be required to take one math class, one STEM class, one foreign language class, or maybe like one humanities class. Here at Hamilton, we have off the requirements, so everyone here studies what they actually want to study. So if you're ever in one class, if you look around, the people who are there are people who want to be there. They're not there because they have to fulfill some requirement, but they actually want to be there. So that's how I feel about the open curriculum. It's like a nice provide you the nice environment and space for you to like discover what department out there is the best for you. And as for me, I've taken like a variety of courses in my first year here. I had like a bunch of fun. I had like a foreign language class. I took Chinese, and I had econ. That's like my principal focus. But I did take like a African studies class. I took psychology and math as well. So I think really getting out there and seeing what might be good for me. And like most students here like typically take 4 classes a semester, and the 4th class is usually this fun goof off class. So you might have like a dance class or maybe like a fun visual arts like ceramics class or theater. Like you never know what you might try out. It's just like taking advantage of it and having like a nice fun class. I think that's like what people do here generally. Yeah.
Well, can you say what your fun class was?
So I had a fun class called Racism and versus Anti-Racism. It was definitely a bunch of reading, but like every discussion I had in my class was always thought-provoking. I was like, every time I left my class, I was like mind blown. So like we definitely do have much more fun classes here to offer. So that's definitely something to look out for here.
Great, thank you. How about you, Lydia?
Yeah, I would definitely echo everything that Norbu has said. I especially like the point about how with the open curriculum, you know that everyone who is in your class is really, they're there because they really want to be there and they're interested in learning about what that class has to offer and are taking it very seriously. It's not like they're just there because they have to fulfill a requirement that's required by the school. So I think that the open curriculum really allows for you to be surrounded by people who are just as passionate about the area of study as you are. I also think that the open curriculum has been great in terms of allowing you to explore different interests that you never knew you could have had before going to college. I just know in my particular case, I had never taken a psychology class in high school, but I thought that it really interested me. So when I first got here, I worked with some of my academic advisors to figure out what classes I really wanted to take. And I ended up filling my schedule with some psychology classes. And I thought that I wanted to major in psych. And then a little ways into my experience, I found out that I just did not want to do that. And I had randomly ended up taking a history class just because I'd taken history in high school. It interested me. So I had space in my schedule. So I thought, why not add a history class to the schedule? And I ended up really loving it. And being a history major just kind of fell into my lap. And the same goes for economics and Russian studies. Those are also areas of study that I never had the chance to even explore in high school. But the open curriculum really gives you a lot of freedom to explore areas of study that you never would have anticipated getting into. And it also gives you the time to do so because you have 4 open, like Norbert was saying, most students at Hamilton take around 4 classes each semester. So you basically have, in your first 2 years here, you're going to have 4 open slots every semester to take a class that you want to explore. So the open curriculum has been great in that regard.
So do you have kind of a fun class that you've taken? I mean, you talked a little bit about that, they kind of fell into your lap with history and Russian studies. Is there one where you're like, I would never have usually taken this, but I thought I would? Yes.
No, that's a really good question. I would say probably that class for me was during my freshman year. I took a class that was for first years only. It was called Dream Life. And it was a literature course that was basically centered around reading literature that like was very dreamy or dreamlike and resembled a dream. And I think that I've taken obviously an amazing list of classes here at Hamilton, but I think that that has been my favorite class I've taken at Hamilton, just because it was like such an obscure class, but I loved it so much. I had like the same feelings as Norbu, as I would leave every class like mind blown.
Well, I think both of you actually covered a really great, both of you used a lot of words to explain the idea of explore and passion and freedom and, exploration and, the idea of just diving into what interests you. And I think here at Hamilton, we want you to be able to explore your passions. And we also know that you're 17 years old, 17, 18 years old. So discovering your passion may not be the thing yet, but the idea of having that freedom in which to do so is something that really stands out with the open curriculum. So even though you may not be, let's fill in the blank type of student, whether that's a STEM or a humanities or a social scientist, the idea of that you're not limited. And so you may start off in what you're interested in, but then you get exposed to so many other academic areas that you try it, or you talk to your friends and they kind of share those interests as well. I've talked to, it's one of the questions I love asking students, like, what is your fun class? I have students who are saying, who are strictly like, I'm a biologist or I'm a chemist or I'm an economist, but I took this martial arts dance class and I was amazed by it. It was actually multiple students who told me. And so I was curious as to like martial arts and dance, and it was one of those things where I don't think you're automatically going to say, I want to take this class, but the idea of this class is available and I get credit and I can have fun. That's what we really want to encourage. And I think definitely in those classroom settings, Norby, you brought up a really great point that you're in classes that you want to be in, and therefore people are as excited just as you are. So what it does is it raises that bar of conversation because everyone's just as engaged as you are as part of that classroom setting, and especially with the faculty members. And so some of the things you talked about, I think in theory, students really like the idea of an open curriculum, and then at the same time they get anxious and nervous because they're like, wow, way too much freedom and no structure. So can you talk about that relationship with the faculty and students? Can you talk about how you're supported by the faculty as part of that process of kind of navigating the open curriculum? Either Lydia or Norbu.
Yeah, I would say that I think that's really where your academic counselor will come in. Your freshman year, you're assigned an academic counselor who is going to be the professor of one of the courses that you're taking. And they were a huge support system for me during my freshman year. I definitely had a couple of freakouts where I was like, oh, like I'm approaching the point where I need to declare my major and like, I don't know what I'm going to decide upon. But I really just think that speaking with faculty, whether it's in a major that you're interested in and kind of seeing what some of the requirements are, what is going to be expected of you in that major. And I really think that my freshman academic advisor really pointed me in the right direction and offered me a lot of support and guidance when it came to picking courses that I thought I was interested in and eventually narrowing down into one major.
Mm-hmm. Norbert, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, as for me, I was pretty sure about like econ, like my first semester here. So I did have like some sort of direction in my first semester here. But like if you are someone like me, your advisor might direct you to some other fun classes that why don't you take that class? For this, for the next semester, like fall 2022, I was planning to take 2 econ classes, and my advisor was like, are you sure about that? So like, just like having nice conversations about like really thinking about the options there. So in place of the second econ class, I'm taking comparative politics. I've heard very good reviews about the class from my friends, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, like even if you have no clue, they'll be helpful. Even if you're like too focused or like too narrowed down into one department here, they do a good job talking about like just like nudging you into the right direction, just like making sure you get the best experience out of the academic advisory here. So yeah.
Great. And Travis, you have a very big and important title here at Hamilton. And so can you talk about how you and your office and those on your team support students while they're here at the college? And so, outside of the classroom, what types of services to support students are there?
Sure. I mean, we're here to support students in all of their endeavors. So that can look like campus jobs and supervisors. That can look like student organizations and helping guide students in their things that they're passionate about, things that they want to try out that they maybe never have engaged in before. One thing I like to think about is how students kind of collect meaningful adults over the time of their time on Hamilton. So there's your academic advisor, as has been talked about. We have Alex advisors now for students as they come in, who's another meaningful adult who's assigned to you that you know you have access to help guide you, but you also may have campus supervisors, coaches, you may utilize the counseling center or the health center, different meaningful adults that you will connect with over time, that you will meet, that work here and are part of the community, all of whom are here because they're committed to the success of our students. And sometimes that looks like us showing up and cheering you on at your contest or at your art showing or whatever may be happening. And sometimes it's supporting you through some tough moments, because anything that you want to accomplish that's important is often difficult and often comes with moments of challenge. And so we have people at every corner of the college here to support and celebrate you along the way.
Mm-hmm. I like how you say that, Travis, it's a collection of adults who will be supporting each student here on campus. And so, as people have talked to you, have a faculty advisor who will walk you through this process, navigating the open curriculum. You're going to have a career center advisor who will be assigned to you over the summer prior to your enrollment here, prior to your entry into the college. And it's not necessarily about, okay, welcome to campus, Lydia. Now you have to find a job and we're going to help you. It's more about how do you pull those experiences from in and outside the classroom and help build that foundation to prepare you for that next level of when you apply, like, feeling confident about being a speaker, learning how to communicate right in your writing, how to network, how to form connections and relationships. And then you have also an Alex advisor, which is a newer program on campus. And that is the network in which it connects all of those adults and people on campus and mentors supporting you in terms of how do you support you as a whole person and not just in one area. So definitely, I think students, you have to work really hard not to be supported on this campus, I think, because of the fact that you have so many people supporting you in a variety of ways. And I will say that, Travis, you mentioned something about, sometimes, there's official and formal advising and support that happens, but at the same time, there's very much an informal as well. So it could be showing up for your game or your art exhibit, or it could be, we have faculty and staff who support the athletics teams on campus. We also have faculty and staff who support some of the student organizations as well. So there's always going to be people here as part of the community who are not students, who are going to support students in order to be successful on campus. I think definitely it's, finding your place and being opportunity to express yourself and expand your opportunities. And so I'm curious as to think about, your first year experiences. Lydia and Norbu, you're kind of bookending it in the sense of some very crazy couple years. And so how did your experience as a first year happen? And how did you find community? I think that's one of the big things that gets students very nervous about the college experience. Lydia, you talked a little bit about that, about finding your space. So what was your first year experience like? And then, how did you find kind of your community while you were here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that Hamilton sets up your first year experience in a really great way, where immediately right when you get to campus, like, you are given a small little community. The orientation trips are a huge thing here at Hamilton. Every first year student is going to go on an orientation trip during their first week here at Hamilton. These trips can range in a wide variety of different places and activities that you do, but you're basically going to be paired up with a group of random students who you never met before. And it really is just a great way to have a couple of friendly faces to say hi to be friends with, to grab meals with. And this is essentially right when you get to campus. So there's never going to be a time when you're feeling alone. Mm-hmm. But I think just beyond that, I think it's really important when you get to Hamilton, or really just to any college, to find smaller pockets of community among the larger population. And a big way you can do that is through getting involved in different clubs and organizations. Hamilton has a wide range of clubs you can get involved in. If you ask really any student on campus, they're going to be involved in many different things. And Hamilton does a great job at making these things available to students, both in the fall and the spring semester. There's going to be a club fair available to students. So that's actually how I found out about signature style. During the winter of my freshman year, I went to the club fair and I found that table and I was like, oh my God, I need to do this. And I've been on it the past 3 years. So it's been really great. But yeah, those are just some of the ways that you can get involved and find community on campus during your first year.
Great. How about you, Norma?
Cool. Like my answer is very similar to Lydia's. But yeah, the first day here, I was paired up with like 8 other people, and we went on this 4-day trip. And like on these trips, we had like 2 rules. The first one is no phones rule. So like you keep your phone back in your dorm, and you like spend actual face-to-face time with these people out here. So that's always awesome. And the second bigger, like more important rule is the no shower rule. So people spend 4 days out in the wild with no showers. So you really get to know these people on a deep personal level, and that's always fun. And the best thing is like you have a group when you go out on these trips, but when you come back on campus, you have a nice community of yourself to hang out with. My orientation trip, we did like dinners every now and then. So we had 2 seniors who were our orientation trip leaders, and during those trips, we asked them over like 400 questions. Like, so that was like a really nice way to get to know campus, like with like a personal way. And after you get back to campus, you have so many friends. Speaking more on the orientation week here, orientation week is around 8 to 9 days long. So you go out on the trip for the first 4 days, and when you come back on campus, we do have a few small events. And I remember meeting around 200 people during those times. And then I forgot most of the names, but I still say hi to them randomly. Whenever I walk past them, I'm like, I don't know your name, but hi. That's always fun. But yeah, like speaking again to the club fairs are massive. We get to talk to like representative from the club, and you actually get to like work on something you actually want to be interested in, like and learn more about. So I think the orientation week itself, and then like the big club fairs we have, I think that's a great way to like find your own community. And personally, as an international student, I personally had like the international students have this small orientation right before the freshman orientation. It's like I think it's a few like 4 days long. I'm not too sure about that, but then again, as international students, you are like obviously anxious about like the whole year ahead. So I think having your own nice international community, it was like a nice thing to have for me here in my first year. So yeah.
Great. And Travis, your office and your colleagues coordinate all of this. And so can you talk about kind of the philosophy behind this? Like, going out on these, there are 3 different adventures basically that students can choose to go. And it is required of our students to do this. What is, I think, people go out into the woods, but then they also, can you give an example of some of the activities, because you don't necessarily have to go into the Adirondacks, but there are other options as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the history of this is that the program started as Adirondack Adventure specifically, where we capitalized on being at the foothills of the Adirondacks and taking trips of kayaking, canoeing, and hiking and things of that nature. But we realized quickly that students who didn't have that experience really missed out on an important shared experience to get to know one another. And so we expanded it, recognizing that not all students want to go kayaking and hiking and things of that nature. And so we also have service-oriented trips where students get out into Utica usually, but other surrounding areas to do service for those that are interested in that. And we also have just interest area trips. So they may be based on history, often far-flung throughout New York State, to go check out different sites that are based on some historic theme, or it can be, music oriented or theater oriented. There's all kinds of different themes that are not just the kayaking and hiking and things that where this kind of programmatic effort started. The other thing I just want to add is that one thing that's really important is that these shared experiences are a great springboard, but we're also committed to supporting students in the weeks that follow and the times when those initial relationships don't necessarily always last, that we are here to provide programming and reminders of things and create more opportunities for students to get engaged in new and different ways. And I bet our students experience moments in their second semester and their second year, or soon to be second year in Norbu's case, where you're like, you know what, there's still opportunity for me to stay open to experience, and there's still opportunities for people to get engaged in those ways.
Mm-hmm. Right. And similar, and something that Norbu was saying, like, he met 200 people, but, may not have known their names. And so you have 4 years in which you can learn their names and say hello to them. And what's great is that even though we are a campus of about 2,000 students, you're constantly meeting new people. At least that's what I've seen, and that's what I've, when talking to students, they're like making new, their social networks are expansive, and they're overlapping in so many different areas on this campus. So it's not solely one group that you'll spend time with. You'll actually spend time with quite a few different types of people and communities and activities and clubs and whatnot as well. And I think the thing is, what I appreciate about hearing from students regarding their orientation trips is something that you were saying, Travis, is that the intense 2 weeks of orienting yourself expands out to multiple months after that, of finding ways to engage with people. So students shouldn't stress, like, if they haven't found their people yet, it doesn't, it's okay. It's, it's not a failure in any sort of way. It's it's just people will have different interests, and they'll find people at different times of their first couple months here on campus, and they'll grow really great friendships. And I'll say that, especially this year, we were able to have our reunion on campus, and to have about 3,500 alums come to campus was amazing. And it was, what's great is that they all talk about the friendships that they made during their orientation, their first year on campus. And so the idea of, like, these are lifelong friendships that students here are building, and it's not just for the 4 years, but it's for beyond as well. So I think the thing is that we've talked a lot about the first year experience, kind of transitioning onto campus. We've talked a little bit about, the classroom setting. Have either of you been able to participate in any type of internship or research while you're here on campus? Lydia, you're nodding yes.
Yes, I have. I can speak to research here on campus. Research, well, when I was thinking about research in high school, I really only looked at it from like a STEM angle. I kind of just thought it was like people in lab coats doing work in a lab. That's not the case at all. Research is very attainable here at Hamilton, and it can happen in many different ways. For me personally, I just reached out to one of my favorite professors here on campus and asked if she was working on any research projects and could use an assistant. So I'm working as a research assistant for her. But other students, instead of reaching out to a professor and working with them, they will often propose their own idea for research, and then we'll get a grant for it. And I'm a history major, so I'm obviously doing research from a humanities lens, but you can definitely do it from a STEM lens too. There are people doing research in physics and music and theater, really in anything you can imagine. And then as for internships go, I had an internship last summer, and the Career Center's resources really helped me be able to apply for that internship and to take the proper steps when submitting my resume and my cover letter. The Career Center is a really great resource. They will have resume templates, cover letter templates. So if you don't really know where to start in terms of writing those, you can use that on the website, or you can go in person and you can speak to a tutor there who can help you fine tune all that you've written. But yeah, the Career Center has been a great research in terms of that. And I would say that research is a big part of Hamilton. And it's also really great that as undergraduates, we're able to do research.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a question specifically for you, Lydia, about being a history major. And so how has Hamilton, what types of opportunities have been provided to you in order to explore this academic area, and how do you feel that you've been supported in order to thrive as a history major?
Yeah, the history department here at Hamilton is phenomenal. You really cannot go wrong with any of the professors. They're amazing. My academic advisor is one of my professors that I had during my sophomore year. And I think by the end of My time here at Hamilton, I'll have taken 4 classes with her. So I am really hoping that she doesn't think that I'm obsessed with her. But the professors here just offer so much support. Like, as I just said before, they have provided opportunities when it comes to doing research. There's a lot of other students who are here this summer doing research with fellow history professors. I've also had many professors reach out to students in the rest of the history department or students that they've had in their classes with academic programs they can attend. Like, one of my professors, she reached out to our class like a year after we had that class, and was like, oh, there's a program going on. Like, I know some of you could be interested in it. So they're always really there to, point you towards opportunities and give you support. And I would also say too, this really goes for all professors at Hamilton, but they're really willing to work closely with students, whether that's through office hours or getting together outside of the classroom, but they just really want to be there for a support system for their students.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Perfect. Thank you. And how about Norbu? You haven't been able to do any research yet on campus, but that's kind of in the plan, in the works.
Yeah, it's my first year here, so I don't really have much experience about it. But I actually know people who are doing research, especially in the STEM field. I think there's like a big form that you fill out at the end of every year. You sign up for various research in various STEM departments here, and it's like a formalized process. I actually have 2 friends who are doing chem research right now, so they've been like staying on campus with me, so it's been really fun. And I think every year we have around 300 STEM research assistants stay on campus, and like they're in labs with the typical like the lab coats kind of thing. So we do have that research, but and speaking to more about like independent research, I actually met someone in the rock climbing wall. She was doing research with grocery markets. She was like, I've been like out there, I've talked to people, so we do have like a bunch of fun ranges of things to offer. And regarding internships, I'm currently in the process for finding one for like next summer, and I've been in contact with the career center and my advisor. And every student has their own career advisor, and he's been super helpful. He's been talking about like he's directed to me to so many resources, talking about like what your peers have done in the past with like the major in mind. So yeah, we do have a very nice support system for all of it, for things that might prepare you for your future. So yeah.
Perfect. So my next question, we're moving a little bit away from the kind of the academic and the activities questions. And so you are not just students, but you're also people who have lives outside of this world of College Hill. And so my question is, Norbu, I would love for you to answer this question first. I'm a little biased. I really like this area. The fact of where we're located, it's a little bit more off the beaten path in many ways, but we're 4 hours from New York and 4 hours from Boston. And we, our smaller campus, in the sense of our small community campus, we have a lot of different opportunities for students to engage. And so my question to you is about how was your transition from moving from Bhutan to the US and coming here to Hamilton?
Yeah, that was a very fun journey, honestly. It took me 2 days to get to Hamilton. So I had like 3 different flights from around the world. And that was a fun journey, honestly. I was tired by the end of it, but coming to campus like made it worth it, honestly. And speaking about location, Clinton, like Peaches said, is like a little like not the biggest town out there. But honestly, one of the major reasons why I chose Hamilton was because of how much Clinton mirrored back home. Bhutan's pretty small, very small community, like the close-knit kind of thing. So I think having like an environment that reminded me of home constantly was like a major factor that decided me like to choose Hamilton. But the whole moving process, I came here with 2 suitcases. Now I have so much more stuff. I'm not sure how it happened, but it just did. But yeah, I think moving is tough. Like you're moving half across the world, or even if it's like an hour away from Clinton, or maybe like halfway across the US. I think every move, every change is difficult for everyone. But I think the community here, the people you meet, just make it worth it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Travis, you've lived here for 20 years, and so can you talk a little bit about the village in the town of Clinton and also the surrounding areas? And Lydia, I'll have you go after kind of talking about how you've actually accessed all of that as well. So how about you, Travis?
Sure. Yeah, my favorite way to describe it is that it's kind of just rings of the small town of Clinton, where you have local businesses and you can go to the local pizza shop and they get to know you if you go as often as I do, and just live in that kind of quaint small town life. And then if you get to New Hartford, which is about a 10-minute drive away, you can have almost that suburb experience where it's a lot of chain stores and chain restaurants, and there's a small mall there and things of that nature, and a movie theater and whatnot. Then you go a little bit farther, another 5-10 minutes, and you're in the city of Utica. Now, it's not a huge metropolis by any means, but it's got a variety of different food options because we have a really great refugee population and diversity within the city of Utica that offers a lot of opportunity to engage with different types of folks. If you need a barber shop and you need a Dominican to line you up properly, you can go to Utica and get that. There's just some city options there that may not exist in the Utica and New Hartford area, beyond obviously the further flung trips. But I think it meets a lot of our needs without going too awful far off the hill.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Lydia?
Yeah, I would really echo everything that's been said. The area we live in is definitely rural, but it's not isolated at all. I really love going to school in this area, and I'll definitely miss it when I do eventually graduate. But I really love Clinton and just how close the community there is with Hamilton. One of the main coffee shops, or actually the coffee shop there, the people who work there are just so friendly. And whenever a Hamilton student will come in, they'll sometimes like recognize you and just ask you about things that are going on at Hamilton, which is really great. And really the surrounding area has everything that you need. Utica has amazing food options and is a super fun destination place if over the weekend you and your friends just want to go out to dinner or get a little break from dining hall food. And Clinton itself puts on a lot of fun events. Just this past weekend, there was a book sale. So a lot of students who were here this summer went down and were able to get a ton of books for just like a couple dollars. There's a farmer's market every Thursday. And then if you're the outdoorsy type, the Adirondacks are also just like 90 minutes away from us. And the outing club is very popular here at Hamilton. So that's what a lot of students will do, is go up to the Adirondacks for like a day trip. And that is really fun.
Yeah, and like just adding on to that, I think it's very important to mention that campus itself is very lively. Like we have around 2,000 students on like a small area. So you have like a bunch of small fun events. Sometimes we have the Clinton's Farmers Market on campus. We have like a bunch of like small farmers markets going on, and we have so many student run events. We have like food trucks, we have like bingo nights every now and then. Trivia is a big thing as well. Again, like it is a small town, but you have so many things to do on campus, and I think like there's like a nice community on campus for people to be interested and engaged in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that there's, especially during the summer right now, we have the Clinton Farmers Market that happens every Thursday, as Lydia was mentioning. But then actually during the academic year, we have, as Norbu was saying, we're hosting a lot of activities. We're bringing people to campus. So it's ranged from political advisor David Axelrod to Bob the Drag Queen. Like, I mean, that's kind of the range of people we have coming to campus. And so I know that there was a question about, does it feel isolated? And I think, Lydia, you were mentioning like the idea of just being here has been really important. Like it's kind of a nice break in some ways from students who are living in kind of metropolitan areas to kind of have this like the silence in some ways. Like I was just outside maybe right before this session, and there was a deer walking in front of our building. Like you don't necessarily see that all the time. So, but it is definitely a place where I think people, can call home. We actually, even though we have 2,000 students, we have over 1,300 acres of land that the college is located on. And so a number of that is based on, people of trails. So, especially during the winter, you can do skiing or snowshoeing, or hiking or walking and trailing, during the academic year. So, or when the weather's nicer. So there's a lot of stuff students can do, and faculty and staff and the community members do it as well. I know that we get the question, there's a question about cars. You can have a car on campus after your first year, but really parking's at a premium. So, you may have to fight for a little bit for a parking, but I also don't think it's necessary. We have Uber and we have Lyft, we have Jitney, the Jitney, which is a Hamilton shuttle that drops off at various locations in Clinton, in New Hartford. So, in certain days I'll go to Utica. So definitely you have that type of transportation, especially for students who have to grab a flight or, the train or the bus to go home during breaks. The college will provide transportation to the airports in Syracuse and Albany, which are the main airports in the region. There's also Amtrak, which is located in Utica, also Greyhound. So there are a variety of ways to get around here. But also if you have to go somewhere outside our region, there are ways to get around too. So definitely, I don't think transportation is a challenge for students. And we also have a car share program too. So definitely different things for students on campus. Can you talk a little bit about, Travis, can you actually talk a little bit about the residential life experience? What is it like? What is the process for students in terms of housing?
Sure. Yeah, students are required to live on campus for the entirety of their time at Hamilton. And as incoming first year students, you're required to have one or more roommates as part of the experience. We have 30 residence halls at this point, which means that there's a wide diversity of the type of housing options that exist over the course of the 4 years that students are here, which is actually one of my favorite parts, because while students may not always love the option that they have at the beginning or in the middle, by the end, people have had the opportunity to select housing that really fits their personality. Different buildings have different kind of cultures that go along with them. And so students really get the chance to share in that, as I said before, experience of getting to live with a roommate and navigate that situation, get to know folks down the hall, built-in relationships in the first year, and then opportunities to live with friends in the upper class years. Or if that's not your jam and you want to socialize elsewhere and then come back to a room to yourself, then that's an option as well. So students kind of get to choose their own adventure, not unlike the open curriculum in the residence hall experience.
Mm-hmm. Great, perfect. And so with that, definitely you're living here, but also you're eating here. And I think food's really important. Food builds community. So can you talk, Lydia and Norbert, can you talk a little bit about the dining that happens on campus? Like what options are available, and do you have a favorite meal?
Good question. So there are multiple dining options here at Hamilton. There's Commons, which is the main dining hall. It's located essentially in the center of campus. It's pretty hard to miss. And Commons really just has all the classics. It's going to have pizza, it'll have chicken, there's a salad bar. There's going to be a home station, which will change every time. They just added a hummus bar, which has been fun. And sometimes they'll have like a pasta station, or they have like a sushi station now, I think, or they may have had that at one point. And then there's McEwen, which is going to be on the dark side of campus, or the Kirkland side of campus. And this is like a smaller version of Commons. It's more like vegetarian, vegan oriented, but they still will have meat there. They also have a taqueria station, which is really nice. And then there's Diner, which is probably the funnest option on campus. Diner functions really just like McEwen and Commons, like every other dining hall. But Diner's nice if you just want like a grilled cheese or mozzarella sticks or a burger, and you want good fries, and you get to order and they'll make it right in front of you, which is really fun. And then we also have a couple of cafes on campus. So we have Fojo Beans, which is located in Hamilton, New York. And then we also have The Toast. And those are really great if you want to treat yourself to something like a coffee or like a sandwich or a salad, because those will actually cost money. But yeah, there's tons of different dining hall options here on campus, and you can't really go wrong with any of them. In terms of my favorite meal, that is a very good question. It would probably have to be something from Diner. The chicken Caesar salad wraps are really good there.
And the diner itself is a 1950s diner, so that's
it looks like your typical diner, which is really fun.
Yes, I'm from what I understand is that there are times where someone will play music on the jukebox and everyone starts singing, basically, from what I've heard.
Yes. Oh yes, it is very loud.
How about you, Norbu?
Yeah, like Lydia did a great job talking about all the dining halls we have on campus. But we also have something called the Little Pub. It's like a small like dining option. They serve weekday lunch, open from like 11 a.m. in the morning to 2 p.m. So they have like burgers, pizza, chips, like maybe a salad. And I guess that's the only thing I have on my mind. Oh, I think Commons and McEwen, they recently brought in like omelet bars. So you can cook your own eggs. They have like tomatoes, diced onions, like cilantro, and cheese and everything, bacon too. I once made fried rice there. It was very, very nice. So yeah, I think like, even if you're not vibing with the food in the dining halls, you always make your own and you have the ingredients there to do so. And yeah, I guess my favorite meal would be buffalo chicken fingers from diner. That's the only thing I get with fries from diner, and it's always fun to eat that.
Mm-hmm. And actually something, if you could answer this, Norbu, that'd be great. Lydia had mentioned something about the dark side. Can you talk a little bit about the dark side and the light side that we have here at Hamilton?
Yeah, so like a small history lesson. Hamilton was initially two colleges. We had Hamilton College on that side. Okay, doesn't make sense to you, like people watching here. But essentially, we had the traditional Hamilton College. It was an all men's college founded in the late 1700s, and towards 1968, we had Kirkland College, which was an all women's college founded on the like across the street from Hamilton. So we have like a very distinct architecture difference in these colleges. So we basically have dark side, which is Kirkland, and I'm on dark side right now. And oh yeah, Lydia too. And on that side of campus, we have Hamilton, like we have light side. And that's like a long running joke on campus. I think the president once dressed up in like the Darth Vader costume. So like it's almost like a Star Wars reference here. So yeah, I think that's all I got. Lydia, do you have anything to add on?
No, I think you did it perfectly. Yeah, the light side is like it's like classic old buildings, and then dark side is like brutalist architecture like this. And it's kind of like Norbert was saying, it was kind of like a running joke on campus, like, are you a light sider or are you a dark sider? And obviously no one's gonna fit into either of those categories, but it's like a funny joke.
Mm-hmm. Travis, do you have anything to add about the light side, dark side?
I don't know. I love it because they each have their own kind of vibe. I think students kind of make their way across back and forth. Some feel really connected to one or the other. Others don't. I don't think that there's one way to do it. I don't think you in any way, shape, or form have to identify in one or the other, but I do enjoy. And I have a bias personally because when I started on campus, I ran the dark side. And so I have a love of the dark side personally and identify with it in a specific way because of that, having lived in Babbitt Residence Hall for a few years. But yeah, I honestly, it's partially just somewhat driven by what's happening on each side of campus. You know, that students for convenience sake tend to stay on one side or another if they have the ability based on what's proximal to them. But it's just a kind of fun cultural thing here.
Mm-hmm. And definitely one of the things, it is a fun cultural thing. And, you know, one of the things that Norbu had pointed out was that when the college was first founded, it was an all-male school. And so Kirkland was the women's college that provided more of a progressive education, but also more about, you know, definitely within it also provided progressive education in terms of the arts. So whether that's performing or visual. And so actually on the dark side is where our Kennedy Theater for Studio Arts facility is also right across the street from the Welland Museum, which is a teaching museum. And then on here, you know, as they were saying, like, you know, as Lydia was mentioning, actually the color of the architecture and the stones and the buildings also differ. There's also forming the gray side as well, which is towards, you know, towards the hill. But definitely, you know, it's one of those really great cultural stories about this institution. And so you'll hear students talk about it quite a bit. We only have a couple minutes left. And so one of the things, you know, we've talked about academics, we've talked about extracurricular or research and internships. You all are really great students. What do you do outside of class? Like you have to do other things, you know, you can't just solely be involved in your academics. Like how do you have fun? And what are you involved in?
I can address this. I've seen a lot of questions in the chat about Greek life. I'm a member of Greek life on campus, and I think it's not going to be a dominating factor. I actually never was anticipating joining a sorority on campus. I actually wanted to go to a school that wasn't going to have Greek life. But it really just functions as kind of like a more of like a social club. And it's been a great way to meet friends and meet people I wouldn't have normally met. It's very inclusive to the whole school, and it really does not have to dominate your life here. But in addition to that, just in terms of, oh, and it's also entirely non-residential. So you're not living in like a sorority house, where you're really like closed off to the rest of campus. But I would also say that in addition to that, Norbu was mentioning this earlier, but Hamilton will just put on so many fun events for its students. And I also think that the community and like the nature of the campus here is for everyone to just get super involved. Every weekend there's going to be sports games going on, and most of the time your friends are going to be on athletic teams and you're going to want to go out and support them. So there's always going to be something to do. You're never going to be bored in your room.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And as for me, my weekends are usually days I sleep in. I like wake up like 12 p.m. at like noon, get some rest in. But like after that, I always have like a bunch of small activities to do. Maybe like going off campus, having a nice change of scenery, even if it's like grabbing a meal with my friends off campus or watching a movie, that's always fun. But again, like on campus, most of my life in Hamilton is on campus. Like there's like so many things you can do with your friends. And yeah, like I can't stress this enough. We have so many activities here, so much free food, like lots of merchandise that they drop, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, I think this is a place where we want students to call their home. They're going to be living here for so long. So whether you're, the student organizations, close to 200 of them, around between 150 and 200 student organizations in a variety of different areas. And, definitely from athletics, where we have a third of our students are involved in varsity athletics. We're part of the NESCAC, to an amazing visual and performing arts program as well. And then we also have clubs like the Beekeepers and the Picklink group on campus, or a cappella, which is like almost a Division I sport. There's always going to be things for students to do. So as Lydia, this question is for you. As a senior, you're going to be a senior. You are a senior. How do you think that the college has prepared you for that next step in your journey?
The college has prepared me in so many different ways that I could speak on forever. I think just in terms of academic skills, Hamilton does a really good job teaching you how to write and think critically. I think that since I came here, just through the support of professors and the writing center, Hamilton has really improved my writing to a place that I never thought it could go before. And also just my ability to think critically. I think that we have a lot of important discussions in our classes that are not just applicable to what we're learning in that class, and I think they're really applicable anywhere. And then also just in terms of like personality, I think that coming to Hamilton, I've had a great support system here, and it really has allowed me to grow confident in myself and my abilities. And I mean, just on top of that, we obviously have the Career Center and the amazing alumni network. So I know that in the years following Hamilton, I'm never going to be completely alone, and that Hamilton will always be a support system even after I've left the Hill.
Great, thank you. And then my last question for you all, and we'll start with Lydia, Norbu, and then we'll end with Travis. What piece of advice, when you think of your own college process, what piece of advice would you give these students as they dive even deeper into the college search process and exploring who they are, their self-reflection, defining their sense of identity? What piece of advice would you give them as they decide where to go and where to apply for college? Lydia?
Oh yeah. Sorry, there's a fire alarm going off in the background. I really hope you can hear. But the advice that I would give, so when I was thinking about where I wanted to apply to school, I had mentioned before that it gave me a lot of anxiety. So I really think that when you're applying to college, to really just keep yourself in the center, really just focus on what kind of school do I want? Where am I going to feel the most comfortable? Where am I going to have the opportunity to grow and challenge myself and really receive the best education? Because I think that in a lot of sense, you kind of have an idea of, oh, this is how they want me to sound in an application, or this is the kind of school that I should be going to, or my parents want me to go to school. But really, this is your experience, and you should keep yourself and your needs at the center of that. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Lydia. If you need to leave because the fire alarm is going off, please go.
It's not going off in my section of the building, but it's going off over there, and hopefully it doesn't reach my section.
Okay, I just, safety first, so that's important. Norvu, how about you?
Yeah, I think finding your fit is like a super important thing in my college search process. Like every other student, I had like a long list of colleges, but I think just actually getting to know these colleges, like getting out there, talking to people from like colleges, I think that's a great way to like know yourself. I actually had the chance to like talk to alumni from Hamilton before I came to Hamilton. That was like a big defining factor of why I chose Hamilton. And one more advice I think I have is the Hamilton College's motto is know thyself. Like it's like knowing yourself and like what you want to expect from college, or being aware that like this is like what you're looking for, this is what you want to avoid. I think that's a very important thing in the whole college search process. And lastly, don't look at rankings. Rankings like that's the first thing you like that dominates the whole college search process. And they're like, oh, this is not at the top 10, this is number 1, I'm gonna apply to that. I think that's a very like wrong way of like looking at colleges. Just like it may be a fit for other people, but like, is it going to be the right fit for you? I think really taking the time to like see what college out there or university out there is the best for you. I think that's a good thing to keep in your mind.
Great. Travis.
Those are such great responses that I actually feel like they covered what I want to say, but I guess I will build on it slightly just to say that don't focus on the name recognition, focus on the place that feels right to you. It's unfortunately not always as clear cut as you would hope that it would be. And on that note, I will say that my dean of admission for my undergraduate used to make this joke, and it is a joke, but it's not unhelpful. If you get it down to 2 choices and you're not sure what to decide, flip a coin. And if you're disappointed, pick the other one, which to me really does speak to the trust your gut. That there's something to be said about the place that feels like it has the potential to be home, that offers you the most opportunities to make the most of the 4 years that follow. And so, trust your gut as to what feels right to you, because it's not going to be what your parents want or what your friends choose. It's going to be what feels like the place where you're going to show up and make the most of the opportunities that are in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you all so much. That's great advice. I don't think I could have said anything better than that. In the end, the process is all about you. You'll find a school that'll be the best fit and a place where you're going to thrive for the next 4 years. And so hopefully you'll consider Hamilton as one of those schools to explore further. And with that, I wanted to thank my panelists this evening for joining me. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us, learning a little bit more about our student community, learning more about Hamilton and what makes us distinct. And I hope that throughout the upcoming months, you'll continue to visit us virtually or in person. My colleague, Nikki, is going to put some links in the chat specifically about learning about other aspects of our student life. So whether that's about the open curriculum, whether it's about career services, we also have some workshops happening about writing a college essay or doing a college interview. So please continue to visit us virtually and in person, and we wish you all the best in your college search. Have a great night, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you're coming from. And thanks so much for spending time with us. Take care.